If you are familiar with working in a 3D program such as Autodesk Maya or Autodesk 3ds Max, you already understand the concept of working in 3D. If you are new to working in a 3D environment, I'd like to spend some time explaining the viewports and navigating around a 3D environment. By default, when in the Action tool, you have a two-view layout. I have my action schematic on my left-hand side, and I have the result of action over on my right-hand side. You can have up to a 4-view layout if you wanted to. Each one of these viewports can be different orthographic or non-orthographic viewports to look at your 3D scene from different angles. With this viewport selected, I'm looking at the default camera right now. But if I expand the flyout that reads View, you can see you have access to the Action 3D views. There's Perspective, the default camera, which is currently what we're looking through, plus the front, the side, and the top. Notice the shortcuts for the top, the side, the front, and perspective. It is Shift 4 for your top, Shift 3 for the side, Shift 2 for the front, and Shift F4 for perspective. I'll leave a default camera for right now, and then I'll hit Shift 2, and now you'll see we've switched to the front view. I hit Shift 3, we're now looking at the side view. Shift 4, we're now looking at the top view. Shift F4, I'm looking at what's called perspective. So either using the shortcuts or the view flyout menu, you can very quickly look at the different angles of your scene. If you want to orbit and rotate around your scene, you can switch your tool to be Orbit tool. When I expand the tools, you'll see a section here that reads FOV, Field of View, Track Camera, Tilt, Roll, Orbit, and Dolly. All of these will affect the viewport. If I switch this to Orbit, you'll see my cursor has changed, and now I start to click and drag. I can rotate around and see my scene as I orbit it around in this viewport. You can also zoom back your view by clicking in this field right here. To zoom in your view without switching your tool and using a shortcut, you hold the Option and Command key and click and drag. I'm not switching my tool to the zoom tool. I'm just accessing the ability to zoom in and out in my view by using the shortcut. To be able to pan in the view without switching to an actual pan tool, you can use the shortcut of Control Command and click and drag in the viewport. Going back to the flyout, down in the bottom, notice you can activate the zoom tool by using Shift Z or choosing this. Now my tool is the zoom tool. Going back to my tool list, I can choose Pan, or I can use the shortcut of Shift N, and now my tool is the Pan tool. More likely though, while working, you'll use the shortcuts I just explained. Once again, Option Command is your zoom, Control Command is a pan. Let me go back to my select move. Understand that I am manipulating my perspective view right now. The reason why I tell you that is if you are looking at the camera view and you start to use the Orbit tool, the Roll tool, the Tilt, the Dolly, and so on, those tools and actions that you perform in the viewport will be affecting your camera. For example, I'll switch the view back to the default camera. I'll zoom back a little bit so we can see the entire scene, and I'll select this view and I'll hit Shift 4 to go to our top view. So there's our camera represented by the green icon. I can select it and I can manipulate it if I wanted to this way. Let me undo that. If I activate this view once again, which is now the default camera view, and I switch to my Orbit tool once again, and I start to rotate this, notice in the top view what is happening. We are orbiting our camera, not just the viewport. Let me undo that with Command Z. If I switch my tool to be the Roll tool, and I click, notice what's happening. We are rolling the camera. Again, Command Z to undo that. If I switch to the Dolly tool, and again click and drag, looking at the top view, you can see that we are actually dollying the camera. The parameters are changing in the bottom UI as I make this manipulation. I'll undo that one more time. If you are trying to manipulate your camera, then by all means stay in the default camera view and use the tools that are relevant to the adjustment you're trying to make. But if you're trying to view your scene without manipulating your camera, always remember to switch your 3D view to perspective. Now if I start to dolly this, or if I switch to a tool such as the Roll, I can roll my view, but I'm not affecting the camera. I'll go back to the Select tool. As I mentioned in the beginning, the default layout for Action is a 2-view layout. But if you look over here, you have a flyout that allows you to look at a 1-view, 2-view, 3-view, a 3-view split, 1 on the top and 2 on the bottom, or a 4-view layout. This way you can take this view, set this one to be your side view. You can select this view. I'll hold Shift, hit 4, make this my top view. I can have this my camera view, and over here I can have this one be my action schematic. So now I can see 3 different angles of my 3D scene and still access all of my nodes inside the schematic view.